If you've ever felt like your photos needed a little extra something at the end to kind of make them look a little bit better, this is the video for you. In today's video, I'm talking about my 3 favorite finishing effects to help you guys create better photos at the very end of your edit. Hello everybody, my name is Austin James Jackson. I'm a professional photographer based here in Southern Utah. And in today's video, we're talking about my 3 favorite finishing effects. These are things that you apply at the very end of your photo that are going to help enhance the photo. Whether it be something like a vignette or a sharpen or whatever it may be, these are going to help your photo look a little bit better. Now, I'll be applying all 3 of these effects in Photoshop, but don't worry, if you're not a Photoshop user, I'm going to show you how to apply these 3 effects. It's super simple and easy to use, so you can easily launch from Lightroom or any other software into Photoshop just to apply these 3 effects and then go right back. I really think it's going to help you guys to make your photos look a little bit nicer at the very end of your edit and just kind of help them get just one step higher than they previously were before. All right, guys, so without further ado, let's go ahead and jump right in there. I'm going to be jumping straight into Photoshop. All right, so I've got my image open here in Photoshop. Now, the first finishing move I want to show you guys is just using a simple curves layer. You could actually do this in Lightroom using the tone curve, but I'm in Photoshop because the other 2 things I want to show you are also here in Photoshop. So what you're going to do is open a curves layer by selecting your adjustment layers down here, go up to curves, allow that to open. Now it's open at the top here. Now, if you don't see the curves up here, you might need to open the properties tab. You can go to window, workspace, you go to window, go down to properties and make sure you click that, and then it will appear in front of you here. That's if it's off. Now you click it and it should appear right there, or it should appear on your screen somewhere. You should have this curve. So once you have the curve, basically what you're going to do, you can see that it's a 4x4 grid. So you are going to select where the top of the bottom square meets, basically, which is right here. So bottom fourth, and you are going to click and you're going to drag it down a little bit. And then you're going to drag up on the point that is at the top in the opposite spot. So basically that's a simple S curve. It's going to create some contrast. Now it's a little bit strong, but we're going to adjust it. I want to show you guys what I like to do with this though, that's beyond a simple S curve. So then you're going to click on the very bottom left, that bottom point, and you're going to drag it up until the output is probably about 5 or so. You'll see as you drag it, the output changes. And then you're going to drag that top point and drag it down. Now you can go in and adjust the other 2 points that you made earlier until you feel like they're in a nice spot. So basically what we're doing here with the curve, we're using the S curve to create a little more contrast, but we're also brightening the very darkest parts of the image and darkening the very lightest parts of the image. So even though most of the image is receiving a large contrast shift, you are keeping things from getting too dark and keeping things from getting too bright by using these 2 endpoints here. It's one of my favorite things to do with a curve, and you can see we've got before and after, before and after. So we've added a little bit of contrast up here, but at the same time, we also haven't really ran out our shadows here. We've kind of almost made them a little more dull. They're not really dull, isn't the right word for it, but we've made it so that they are not so contrasty and still easy to see in those shadows. I really like doing this to my photos at the very end. I think it gives it a really nice look, and I'm doing this to pretty much all of my photos. Now, the next finishing move here is going to be what I like to call a pop layer. Now, I have it created in my actions here as pop, so I can just click play. But of course, I'm going to show you guys how to do it. If you want to create an action too, so that you don't have to remember these settings, you can simply come into your actions tab here and click this button to create a new action and then follow these steps. So what you're going to do here is you're going to merge all visible, Command, Alt, Option, Shift, and E. That would be Control, Alt, Shift, and E on a PC. It's going to take just a second to load. That's going to basically just stamp a layer of everything that is on your canvas right now on the top. Now that we have that, we're going to go to Filter. We're going to go down to Sharpen, and we're going to go over to Unsharp Mask. Now, the settings we want to do for this are 50% amount, 40 pixel radius, and a threshold of 0 levels. You're going to hit OK. Now, I know you can see the image behind here, and you're probably thinking that looks terrible. It looks way, way, way too strong. So we're going to dial it down. Now, of course, you could reduce the amount there in the Unsharp Mask, but honestly, I find it much easier to just reduce the opacity of the layer. So you can see we've got before and after. We've added quite a bit of like contrast kicking up in here. We've added a lot of like micro sharpening, I guess I would call it. And it's definitely over sharpened. So we're going to reduce this to about 30% is usually where I feel like it looks good. And you can see maybe depending on what quality you're watching this video on YouTube, maybe you can see the difference it's making, maybe not. So I'm just gonna zoom in using Command plus, and then I'm gonna toggle this before and after, and before and after. So it just adds a little bit of like micro contrast or micro sharpening. And I think it looks really nice. You can of course increase the opacity if you want the effect to be stronger, or decrease it if you don't want it to be as strong. But I find that this looks really nice to kind of just enhance your photo right at the end. Now, the third and final finishing effect, maybe you've heard me talk about it before, is called a vignette. Vignette is super important, and I want to show you guys how to make a totally custom vignette. I do this on every single one of my photos, and it is more than just a simple vignette slider. Again, you can create an action when you do this if you want by simply opening the Actions tab and hitting the plus button to create a new action. I have one right here. It's kind of a drawn out process, so follow along closely, and I would highly recommend creating an action. So to create this vignette, you're first going to want to make a new folder, and you're going to want to put 2 layers inside of it. You can rename the folder and the layers if you want, or you don't have to. Then you're going to grab the circle selector, as I like to call it, or as Photoshop likes to call it, the elliptical marquee tool. You're going to hit Command minus a couple times on your photo to zoom out. Now we're simply going to draw a circle, and the circle is going to be what gets vignetted. Inside the circle is going to get brightened, outside the circle is going to get darkened. So I'm simply going to drag from the center. One thing you'll notice when you drag from the center is it creates the circle like this. If you hold the Alt-Option key on Mac or Alt on PC, it will let you draw from the middle, so you can create that circle a little bit easier. So I probably want something right around here. I'm going to release. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Select, and I'm going to go down to Modify, and I'm going to go to Feather. I'm going to feather by 1000 pixels. Basically, this is just going to make my selection here really soft, which is good for the vignette because we don't want it to be obvious that we've applied the vignette. Now I'm going to go to Edit, and I'm going to go down to Fill. I'm going to fill this with white. I'm going to hit OK, and that's going to take just a second here to load out. And essentially this is going to be our inside brightening layer. So this is going to brighten the inside of our frame. Now you're going to want to change the blend mode off of normal. You're going to want to change it to, and you're going to want to drop the opacity to probably about 30%. You can change this later, but 30% is a good place to start. Now you're going to inverse the selection here by going to Select, Inverse, and then we're going to click on the other layer, and that's where we're going to put our black to darken. So we're going to go to Edit, we're going to go to Fill, and we are going to fill with black. You'll hit OK. And again, will change this to overlay, and you're not going to change the opacity on the darken layer. You can hit Command D or Control D to deselect. Now you've got your vignette built. So of course you're going to need to make some modifications because it looks terrible right now. Okay, so now what we want to do is actually warp the darken layer. So how we're going to do that is we're going to click on the darken layer. We're going to hit Command T or Control T on a PC. That transforms, and then we are going to Control click on a Mac or right click on a PC, select warp. Now what we can do is just start to drag this vignette out, and you can click in multiple spots. You can either click on the photo to drag it out, or you can click on the handlebars. I like to click on the photo to start, and then I might click on the handlebars to refine it later. Now the best thing about this kind of vignette is it's totally customizable. If I just used a vignette slider, it would darken the edges of my frame equally all the way around, and that just simply doesn't make sense because we've got sunlight coming from over here. We don't want to darken the spot with the sunlight, so I want to drag the vignette way off the screen over here so that it is not darkening that part of the photo. And whereas over here, opposite of the sunlight, I am fine with it being a lot darker because there is no sunlight over there. So I'm just going to play with this until it gets to a spot that I like. And totally customizable. Again, this is another effect I do on every single one of my photos. I feel like right there looks good. So we're going to hit enter and let that load out for us there. Again, you want to make sure you're in overlay blend mode, not normal. Overlay is going to help to make sure those colors still come through. And if you are finding that things are being oversaturated, like up here in the top right corner, you can go in with a hue saturation layer and touch that up with a layer mask to desaturate that area. If you wanted to do that, you would simply just click here, hue saturation. You could reduce the saturation, and then you would want to paint on your layer mask. I'm going to invert it, Command I to invert. Grab my brush tool, white brush, make it a little bit bigger here. And Let's go about 400 pixels, I think. Let's go a little bit bigger. And we're just going to paint in just like that to reduce the saturation. So easy fix there. A lot of times I find that it does oversaturate the corners if you hit them really hard, but it is an easy fix to just go in and touch it up. Now you can see the vignette here. I'll zoom in, make the photo a little bit bigger. This is before the vignette. This is after. So it really helps bring your eye into the center of the frame here, darkens the edges. Again, the special vignette, the customizable vignette is very, very important because we can make it so it's not darkening the edges of the frame where the sunlight's coming in, so it looks really realistic. That's how I create my custom vignette. Like I said, I recommend rewinding, following along with this video and creating an action here. It's going to make it so much easier so you don't have to remember all those steps. My action, all that I have to do is draw the circle and then hit play and everything will be created for me. Really, really easy to use. These are my best 3 finishing effects for you guys for your photography. Thank you guys so much for checking out this week's video. Really hope that it helps you guys to create better images. If you guys are interested in seeing more finishing effects in the future, please feel free to let me know down below in the comments. I always appreciate your likes and subscribes. And of course, I love hearing from you guys in the comments. Thank you guys so much for checking out this week's video, and we will see you guys next time. Bye-bye.